What's good, everybody? I am so excited about today's episode because today we are going to radically read the ballot. I don't know about you, but I've got my materials in the mail. All right, I've got my sample explanation packet. I've got my official ballot inside. So let's go ahead and let's radically read the ballot together. So let's open these things up, guys. Listen, I live in Maryland, and so this is the week where we actually can participate in early voting. So from today is October the 26th. So from October 26th until November 3rd, if you live in the state of Maryland, you can participate in early voting. And so Monday, October 26th until Monday, November the 2nd, from 7 a.m. to 8 p.m., you can participate in Maryland early voting. All right, so that's not about voting. This is actually about the Maryland Capital Park and Planning Commission. So this is a letter from Prince George's County Planning Board letting me know that the meeting about the joint hearing for the Prince George's County District Council and Planning Board on the countywide sectional map amendment is being rescheduled. So I will read that later after this. And now to the ballot. Let's read this together. And now we've got our packets. All right, so this is the privacy flap. You do not want to remove this. This is critical to your submission. We have the ballot itself. All right. Then we've got some instructions. So you need to fill out the certification of person assisting voter. We've got some information here letting me know of potential polling places with addresses, where I can go, and critical instructions for the mail-in ballot. Now, I really don't want to gloss over this because I think that part of voter suppression is that sometimes when people receive a ballot and it does not meet absolutely every single requirement within the instructions, that ballot is oftentimes thrown out. And so I really want to encourage all of you, many of us maybe have not participated in the mail-in ballot process, or maybe you haven't participated in the early voting process. You typically kind of stand in line on election day. You go in, you get the ballot, you fill it out, and then you kind of submit it into that electronic submission machine. And so I really want us to be very attentive to what is going on in this election, because we don't want to go through the trouble of filling out our ballots and then those ballots not being counted unbeknownst to us because we did not follow a very specific instruction. All right, so let's read that together just so that we're all clear, because we want to read the ballot radically together. So you are going to need, if you are filling out your ballot, I don't know about you, but I'm excited. If you're filling out your ballot, you are going to need a black pen. You're going to need the reply envelope. Now, remember, the reply envelope is included. All right, so you're going to need your reply envelope. And then you're going to need the ballot itself. All right, so the ballot itself is right here. All right, so you might also need certification of person assisting voter form. Now, you only need to fill out that form if someone is going to be helping you to fill out your ballot. All right. So if someone is helping you, maybe they're filling in the blocks on your behalf, maybe they're even going to take the ballot from you and submit it to the polling place on your behalf. If that is the case, then you really want to make sure that you fill out this form that they sent. All right. This is the certification of person assisting voter form. All right. So guys, if anyone is filling in the ballot for you, or if someone is even potentially going to take the ballot to the station for you, just to be safe, I would encourage you to fill out this form. All right. So let's just read that. Please refer to the instructions accompanying the mail-in ballot. We're going to read those quickly. The oath on the envelope must be properly completed or the ballot will be rejected. Under penalty of perjury, I hereby certify that the person named below, who is entitled to vote under the election law article of the annotated code of Maryland or the Uniformed and Overseas Citizens Absentee Voting Act, and who requires assistance in voting because of a disability or inability to read or write, has authorized me to mark the ballot, if necessary, print his or her name followed by initials on the line provided for the voter's signature on the back of the envelope. I also certify that I am not a candidate on the voter's ballot. I am not the voter's employer or agent of the voter's employer. I am not an officer or agent of the voter's union. I assisted the voter named below in casting his and her ballot. I did not attempt to influence the voter to vote for or against any candidate or question appearing on the ballot. All right, guys. So again, if you potentially have a family member who maybe has a disability, who struggles with reading comprehension, maybe you have a family member who is overseas or in another country or in another state, and for some reason they can't vote themselves, this is a great opportunity for you to fill out the ballot on their behalf. But if you are going to do that, you have to include this certification of person assisting voter form. All right. And just if it's any other situation, you're probably okay. But I really just kind of want us to be on the safe side, because I don't want any of us to be in a situation where we're doing a good deed, we're assisting people to participate in this election, and for whatever legal reason, that ballot has now been rejected and or thrown out. So make sure that you fill out this certification of person voting assistance form. All right. Now, let's get to the voting. All right. Now, if we're going to vote, we need to mark our ballot. Okay. Except for filling in the ovals, do not write on your ballot unless you are writing in a vote. Okay. So that means that when you look at the ballot, you're going to see that there are circles for you to fill in. This is not traditionally a space for you to write in names. All right. So if you see a space where there are circles, fill the circle in completely with a black pen. Do not mark anywhere else on the ballot. If you mark anywhere else on the ballot, that could cause the ballot to also be rejected. So please do not put any ink marks anywhere on the ballot other than to fill in the blocks. And if there is a designated space for you to put in the name of a particular individual, then use that space to do so. All right. If you want to write in a vote, you can write in a vote only if there is a line on the ballot for you to do so. So you must fill in the oval next to the line and then write the person's first and last name on the line, all right? So if you're going to write a person's name on the ballot, that means that you're going to fill in the bullet that says "or write in," and usually underneath that there is a dotted line that will allow you to then write the name of the person's first and last name, okay? So you wanna make sure, do not write a name next to any other bullet other than the write-in bullet. And it needs to be on top of a dotted line, okay? So no other pen marks anywhere other than inside of a bullet, and then writing a name on the dotted line, all right? The other thing that you really want to make sure of is you want to check to see if your mailing envelope requires for you to submit ID, all right? So if you go to your reply envelope, right, you will look and see if it says on the back, right, it should say that ID is required. Mine has my name and an identification number, which means that the Prince George's County voting office has me registered as a PG County voter, so I do not need to submit identification with my ballot, all right? But if your name is not on here and it is saying ID is required, that means that you must, in submitting your ballot, you need to also submit a current utility bill, a bank statement, a paycheck, a government check, some kind of government documentation that shows your full name and your address, so that sorry, I'm trying to make it visible, so that the ballot that you put in here actually gets counted, all right? So make sure that not that you only fill out the ballot, but look at the back of your reply envelope and make sure that it either says your name, it gives your identification, or does it have on that back slot that you need to submit identification documents, all right? You would then put all of that documentation into this reply envelope, okay? And then if they have all that information, then your ballot will be cast, okay? It will be counted. But if any of that information is missing under any circumstance, your ballot more than likely will be rejected. So I really wanted to just take some time to really kind of explain this, go through this, because I really want us to know and understand this is a critical and an important election, and even just minor mistakes, minor misunderstandings can cause your ballot to not be counted, all right? And we don't want to be in a situation where we went through all the trouble to vote and to fill out the ballot, but then for that ballot to not be counted, all right? So let's get to the good stuff. Let's get to the fun stuff, all right? Now, we have a ballot. Now, I have two ballots because, as I like to remind people, we are not exclusively voting just for the president, all right? We are voting for a myriad of other positions as well. And so it is critical that we read, understand, and fill out this ballot and, fill it out based on your conscience. And so I'm going to fill out my ballot here on camera. I'm not going to necessarily tell you what I put. I don't want to influence any of your decisions, but I do want to maybe go over some of the questions to just kind of explain them to make sure that they're clear. Now, to be clear, many of the questions, any of the additional questions are going to be specific to my county, which is Prince George's County, which is why I always press that, guys, this election that we are participating in is not exclusively a presidential election. In your ballot, you do not exclusively have just vote for the president. There are other votes for you to make. There is a judge question. There might be county finance questions. And so you want to make sure that you're participating in this, but you also want to make sure that you're understanding the questions so that you're answering them in a way that is in line with your beliefs, your opinions, your perspective. All right, so let's get into it. I'm super excited. As you can see, I'm even wearing a sweatshirt that says Justice at the Polls. I will put the link for you to be able to get that sweatshirt in the bio, in the bio. I stay on Instagram, the comment section. All right. So for me, my ballot's first question on the first page says, President and Vice President for the United States, vote for one. All right. So according to this, we've got a couple of options. All right. So you have Donald J. Trump and Michael Pence. You've got Joe Biden and Kamala Harris. You have Joe Jorgensen and Jeremy Spike Cohen. You have Howie Gresham Hawkins and Angela Walker. You have Jerome M. Siegel and John DeGraff. And you also have at the bottom, or write in with a line, as we discussed before. So if that is the case, then that means that maybe you have another name. Like, I'm aware that this gentleman, there's a Native American gentleman by the name of Mark Charles, the author of a book, co-author of a book called Unsettling Truths that we read together. He also is a candidate running for president this year, all right? The names that we have on the ballot so far are the individuals who more than likely have gathered the most popular opinion, the most following. They've raised the most money. They're making the most kind of impact on society. They're the most well-known. Okay, let's just say it like that. They're the most well-known. And so if you really wanted to, you could fill in a name, someone who might be running independent or anything like that. But you have your kind of main or your most famous parties running, the two-party system that is the Republican Party and then the Democratic Party, okay? The Republicans have Donald Trump and Mike Pence. Democrats have Joe Biden, Kamala Harris, okay? So if you would like to vote for someone else, you can absolutely do that. Or you can vote the names provided. I'm going to vote for a name that is provided, okay? Fill that in nice and good. We don't want any white space, okay? Now, we have the next one is a representative in Congress for District 5, vote for one. So you have the option of Chris Palombi or Steny H. Hoyer, all right? So vote for one. I'm gonna vote for, who I think would be best in this position. Or you can circle in the write-in and then fill in a name that you know of if that's what you feel you would like to do. All right? So remember, we're voting for the president, we're voting for the vice president, but we're also voting for representatives in Congress. And then this next question, we see that we are also voting for judges. So I need to vote in a judge of the circuit court for Circuit 7. Now, in this question, I need to vote for up to 5 people, all right? So this is not just one vote. It's saying I need to vote for 5 people. That means I need to fill in 5 ballot circles, all right? This is a great time that, let's say, for instance, you don't know any of these individuals, right? because you're at home, you get the opportunity to kind of Google and look these people up, look up their records. You could look up what their positions are on certain cases and on certain issues. And then you can kind of make an informed decision on where you stand. All right. And then you can kind of fill the ballot in an informed way. Whereas typically at least when I've gone in to vote in the past, and I've kind of gone in really uninformed, when I get to some of these other questions, like about the circuit court and things like that, I oftentimes have no idea who these people are. And so you just kind of fill in blindly, just kind of praying and hoping that something works out. And so one of the probably the greatest things about COVID is that it has set us up to where we can be informed voters now. We're not having to just go to the polling place on November 3rd and make a blind vote. Now we can, I think more of us, because technically you could do this before, but more of us, due to COVID-19, are becoming aware of the mail-in ballot procedures, the early voting procedures, absentee ballot procedures. And so, yeah, take this, don't feel pressured, right? This is the beauty that we're in the early voting season, right? You've got your ballot, you've got your names. Go head on over to Google, type these people up, and let's see what they're about. All right. So let's just take a couple names for an example, right? Okay, so let's just kind of Google a couple names and see what we get. All right, so you can see my screen. I'm gonna make that big, and I have a name here: April T. Ademiluyi. All right, let's check her out. Okay, so April was born in Baltimore. She's a politician. She's about 39 years old. Prince George's County Circuit Judge. And look at that. So let me go back. I don't know if you guys saw that, right? So when I typed in her name, the first thing that came up in Google is Prince George's Circuit Court Judge Vote 411 voter guide. So in other words, people have already set up information to help you understand who are these people, what do they stand for, do I want to keep them in office, or do I want to put somebody else in there? All right. So now if we go down, we see that we can type on April's personal website, her campaign website. We see she has a Facebook page, she has a Twitter. And there is an article in the Washington Post published in 2016 about her, right? So just for the sake of interest, let's check out her campaign bio real quick. Okay. So she's got the voting information right at the top. And if we come right here, we can see her bio. So April was born in Baltimore, Maryland to African immigrants. April is a Prince George's native who attended Prince George's County Public Schools. April began her college studies at University of Maryland College Park through the early enrollment program, which allowed her to take college courses while still a high school student, where she earned a BS in chemical engineering. So basically, April sounds like she's a native, not just to Maryland, but she's a native to Prince George's County, and she is a highly educated woman. She went to and graduated from George Mason School of Law. She's Black. She's a woman. She's a member to the Civil Justice Maryland Land Title Association and the National Society of Black Engineers, and mentions that she's a member of Zion Church and Power of His Glory Ministries. Okay, so you have a little bit about her bio here. All right, so oftentimes, though, what you're not going to get on a website like this is you're not necessarily going to get her sharing her decisions. Like in a particular case, court case, she's not going to come on her website and say, I sent so-and-so to jail for XYZ for however many years, right? So that's more information that you're going to have to look into. But what you do get is you get her story, you get her bio, and we can potentially see who has endorsed her, all right? So we have a couple things here. We have the Pro-Choice Maryland PAC, and we've got the Progressive Maryland organization. Okay, so that's some interesting stuff. Let's go on to that link, the vote guide link. All right, so as we see here, we've got to choose 5, and there are 6 names, 3 of which are black women, 4 of which are black women. 1 is a white man, 1 is a white woman. Now, I do not recommend just voting all black, right? Like, put in all black candidates. I'm not going to ever recommend that. I say, let's go through, let's identify who is who, where do they stand, and what's potentially best for Prince George's County. I think Judge April so far sounds like a fantastic candidate. She's young, she's 39. She currently is living, or she was born in Baltimore, but lived and grew up in Prince George's County, was schooled out here in Maryland and the DMV area. So she sounds like a great candidate. We have here her qualifications, her court needs, repeat offenders, and discrimination. So let's see this. What can the courts, when asked, what can the courts do to reduce recidivism? This is what she said. She said returning citizens or those convicted of crimes need resources such as housing, job training, job opportunities, mental health counseling, and monitoring to ensure a proper and successful transition. The courts should provide encouragement and, to the extent possible, ensure that these resources are available and offered to others. So in other words, Judge April doesn't just believe in sending people to jail or to prison for the purpose of punishment, but she actually believes that when citizens, those who are incarcerated, are coming back into society and they're coming out of prison, she believes that in order to reduce recidivism, or basically in order to reduce those individuals remaining in the criminal justice system and ultimately becoming repeat offenders and ultimately going back to jail or prison, she's saying that the court should provide both encouragement and resources to help with housing, job training, job opportunities, mental health counseling, and a myriad of other things to aid with that. So that means, you know what? I like Judge April. I'm gonna keep it 1,000 with you right now. I really like her stance on something like that. She sounds like a judge that is deeply aware of the mass incarceration issue, and she is not just trying to maintain that language that we hear a lot of around law and order, but that she's actively saying, you know what, I actually want to help with citizen rehabilitation, not just community law and order, but I want to be a judge that is engaged in community citizen rehabilitation by way of the courts. She's using her platform to be able to do that. To the question, what are the greatest challenges facing Maryland's court system and how can these be addressed? She said, according to JPI's research, Maryland has the highest incarceration rate of young African-American men in the nation. The Baltimore Sun chronicled the journey of a teenage African-American male who spent the majority of his teenage years incarcerated for theft of a cell phone. Our traditional system of selecting and retaining judges is failing the African-American community and must change. So I'm gonna tell you right now, I'm filling in the ballot and I'm voting for Judge April because Judge April is aware of racial disparities within criminal justice, and she is actively using her position and power on the bench in, what is this? This is Circuit 7. This is where I live. And she is making sure that we are not perpetuating these kinds of problematic sentences for African-American men, particularly African-American male teenagers. And she's using her time on the bench to also determine how can we make sure that individuals who are coming out of the system do not go back in? How can we use budget and money and resources to really give people the help and the aid that they need? So Judge April gets my vote. All right. Let's see. We've got Judge Curry. When asked the same question, What are the greatest challenges facing Maryland's court system and how can these be addressed? Judge Curry said, ensuring equal access to all, regardless of background or orientation, is a concern. I am a member of the Judicial Education Subcommittee, as judicial education is essential. Participation in classes and programs, promoting understanding and recognizing opportunity for court referral to pro bono resources, self-represented litigant center, and in Prince George's, the Family Justice Center help access. Let's see what she thinks on what the courts can do to reduce recidivism. She says encouraging participation when appropriate in treatment programs and underlying conditions and circumstances which contribute to recidivism, such as substance abuse and mental health issues, the reentry court program targeted toward incarcerated individuals with drug-related problems, dependencies, and/or mental health issues. Veterans Court and the Teen Court Diversion Program may also assist. So Judge Curry she doesn't necessarily have as eloquent a response as Judge April, but she does sound like she's at least aware that there is a problem within the criminal justice system and with regards to treatment around incarcerated individuals. And so she names a variety of resources that she believes that can help with that. Judge Kelsey, what does the court need? She says one issue tackled by the court surrounds pro-se litigants, or those who represent themselves, in an effort to assure fair and equal just for all. The court provides forms and pamphlets of general information on a variety of legal issues such as domestic violence, family, civil, and criminal law. Assisting the public with these tools helps ensure a fair and just system for all. So in essence, she's saying that courts should do a better job of providing information to individuals, and should really tackle the issue of how so many litigants are dealing with having to represent themselves. Repeat offenders. So she says that drug use can be a root cause to recidivism, which I totally agree with. I think there's research that supports that. In these instances, a referral to our existing adult drug court program is what's needed to employ innovative judicial supervision with the purpose to decrease drug-related crime and violence, reduce incarceration, provide need-specific treatment and services for substance abusers, and thereby enhance the quality of life for the individual and the community. I actually want to look at her response to this last question. What steps can the courts take to reduce the risk that bias will influence the outcome of legal proceedings? She says that I am one of 24 judges consisting of all genders and a variety of races, nationality, religions, and cultures. Some of our judges were prosecutors, defense, corporate, and/or public interest attorneys. Others served as JAG officers in the military or speak Spanish. With such a rich and diverse bench, we engage in required trainings and impromptu conversations on this important issue regularly. So I'm gonna be a little honest. I'm not sure I really like her response. When asked the question, what steps can the courts take to reduce the risk that bias will influence the outcome of legal proceedings, she basically said, I'm one of 24 judges and the bench is extremely diverse. And so because the bench is diverse and we go through diversity trainings, we then ensure that discrimination based on race, gender, etc. doesn't play a factor into the outcomes of various legal proceedings. I'm not sure that that is an answer that I was looking forward to hearing. I think that question is more so along the lines of what can courts do specifically, not necessarily what's the background diversity training that y'all are doing. Like when you get on the bench, Judge Kelsey, what are you going to do to influence the outcome of legal proceedings, and what are you specifically doing to impact the other 23 judges that are your colleagues that you sit on the bench with, and how are you working to ensure that those individuals are also engaging in fair legal proceedings that do not influence discriminatory outcomes? Let's see what Judge McCarthy is about. When asked about the discrimination question, he says, bias is most prevalent in non-diverse settings. Fortunately, the Circuit Court for Prince George's County is incredibly diverse, being predominantly minority female, meaning that 12 of the 24 judges are African American females. This means that all of the judges are able to learn from a diverse group of colleagues, to share ideas that come from a variety of backgrounds, and to serve as checks and balances. So basically, Judge McCarthy is saying the exact same thing that Judge Kelsey said. And so that's interesting. They're both basically saying that, you know what? We've got 24 judges and we are all extremely diverse. And so we all kind of play off of, work together, and influence each other's decisions. So, I mean, I think that that's good information. But again, there's a part of me that just feels like there's more to influencing discriminatory outcomes in the legal system beyond saying, well, we're a diverse bunch of people. So just something to think about. Let's see what Judge Surratt thinks about repeat offenders. She says we have adult and juvenile drug courts, veterans courts, reentry court, and truancy reduction court to provide services to help folks thrive. The expansion of therapeutic jurisprudence and restorative justice could help reduce recidivism, as could increased services, the elimination of barriers to reentry, and strong community supports. And then when she was asked about what the courts could do about discrimination, she said, fortunately, Prince George's County judges have varied backgrounds, racially, culturally, gender, and work experience. It is an honor to serve with them. Nonetheless, implicit biases permeate our society. I serve on the Judiciary's Equal Justice Committee to identify and dismantle discriminatory behaviors in all aspects of the judiciary's functions. Let's see Judge Weatherspoon. She says that for the court to reduce recidivism, that they could institute creative sentencing that would help reduce recidivism. Clearly, sentences without anything further is not working. This again goes to people being treated the same without giving thought to the individual persons. Second, involving education in sentencing would help. Instead of just handing out sentences, we need to incorporate education and awareness to sentencing. I think that that's great. That makes a lot of sense to me. When she says, you know what, I'm going to give out equal and fair sentences, but I want to also couple education along with that sentencing so that you go into your jail or prison time with some information, and then you come out and you receive even more information along with potentially a variety of other healthcare resources. When asked about discrimination, she says that first, diverse judges would help. Judges who have only worked for the state and have not interacted with a diversity of people don't know how to handle different people. Jurors take their cues from judges, and seeing judges respect everyone in the courtroom will also help the risk of bias. When people see that judges are not being biased, they will act in kind. Now, this actually sounds really interesting. This is a nuanced opinion that's something that I want to hear. I want to hear, man, yeah, we've got some diverse judges. Okay, that's great. But in addition to that, are they simply diverse in their religious background? Are they simply diverse in their race, in their nationality, in their gender, in their socioeconomic upbringing? Or are they also diverse given their work experience? Have they worked outside of the state? Have they worked on a variety of different cases? That's also really something interesting to think about. And she's saying that kind of experience literally impacts your attitude and what you do as a judge in the courtroom, and what you do in the courtroom literally impacts the jurors, and the jurors feed off of that energy. So that sounds like something that I am in alignment with. So we've got 6 judges. I've got to pick 5 people out of these 6. Which of the 5, based on these responses to questions, are in more alignment with what I want to see from my judges, right? So that's what I've got to think about when filling out this ballot. So I'm going to get to it. All right. All right. So I've got 1, 2, we know I really liked. Let me see Kathy again. Okay. All right. Okay, so we got that question. I think that went really well. So I've got my 1, 2, and I'm going to count it just to be sure because I don't want to send in with the incorrect number. So I've got my 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 judges for Circuit 7. And now I'm ready for the next question. All right, so in the next question, I see that I've got a judge for a court of special appeals at large, and that is a vote yes or no, meaning that there is no competitive candidate. I need to say whether I want to keep that person in office or not. All right. Now, this is where things get fun on the ballot. When we turn over, we've got these questions, all right? So let's start looking at some of these questions, all right? So question number 1 says this: the proposed amendment authorizes the General Assembly in enacting a balanced budget bill for fiscal year 2024 and each fiscal year thereafter to increase, diminish, or add items, provided that the General Assembly may not exceed the total proposed budget as submitted by the governor. All right. Now, what's interesting about my county is, as I showed you guys earlier, they sent in the official sample ballot. So I can actually go in here, and on page 15, they have an explanation for question 1 about balancing the state budget, right? So this is what they say. This proposed constitutional amendment would alter the state's budget process. So, under current provisions of the state constitution, the governor annually submits for approval by the General Assembly a proposed operating budget which contains the planned funding levels for all 3 branches of state government, the executive, legislative, and judicial branches. In approving the operating budget, the General Assembly may not increase or add funding for the executive budget, but it may increase for the legislative and judicial branches. Except for expenditures required by the state constitution, the General Assembly may decrease funding in the operating budget for each of the 3 branches of state government. Now, once the General Assembly approves the operating budget, it becomes law immediately without further action by the governor. Okay? So in other words, we're approving how monies are going to be used, not just within my local county, but I'm currently voting about balancing the state budget. All right. So we need to mark whether or not we are for this constitutional amendment that balances the state budget and puts this budget into law. All right. Or we need to vote that we are against that. All right. Question number 2. We've got commercial gaming expansion, all right? So they ask, do you approve the expansion of commercial gaming in the state of Maryland to authorize sports and events betting for the primary purpose of revising revenue for education? So in other words, they're asking me, do I approve allowing the state to make betting on sporting events legal? Okay, so I think there are already casinos in the state of Maryland, so casino gambling is already legal here. What is still illegal here is gaming, betting on sports, betting on a variety of events like that as well. Now, this is also in the booklet. All right, so we've got question number 2 provided. So in here, they say if the voters statewide approve this referendum, legalese, this will authorize the General Assembly to pass a law allowing the state lottery and gaming control commission to issue licenses to offer betting in the state on sports and other competitive events. Such a law must specify, 1, who is eligible to apply for a license to operate sports and event betting, what forms of betting are allowed, and how betting must be conducted and where an individual can place a bet. All right. Sports and event betting is a gaming activity in which an individual places a bet on the results of a sporting event or a particular play or action during a sporting event. Sports and event betting can also extend to non-athletic events such as reality television competitions or entertainment award shows. Now, what is critical or what is very interesting is that they are suggesting in this question that the funds that the state raises as a result of such betting would then go to education, public education, to be clear. So are you, as a Maryland voter, are you comfortable with the state of Maryland making gaming and sports gambling legal? And are you comfortable with them using those funds to support and provide more resourcing to public education? That is the question. And so that's what you've got to vote, whether or not you are for or against, or what I have to vote, whether I am for or against. So, man, let's see. All right. Now we've got some other questions here. Question A. Enact enabling the county to borrow money and issue bonds in an amount not exceeding $178,150,000 to finance the design, construction, reconstruction, extension, acquisition, improvement, enlargement, alteration, renovation, relocation, rehabilitation, or repair of public works and transportation facilities, including roads and bridges, parking lots and maintenance facilities, including the acquisition and development of sites therefor, the architectural and engineering services incident thereto, and the acquisition and installation of necessary fixed permanent equipment therefore as defined therein. Am I for that or not? In other words, am I for my county not just using, but actually borrowing $178 million to keep up the public works and transportation facilities that I drive on, the roads, the bridges, all that kind of stuff. All right. Just a lot of legalese to say, can we keep up the community? Can we keep up the community? All right. Looks like we've got couple more questions here, all right? So, enact enabling the county to borrow money to issue bonds in an amount not exceeding $28,829,000 to finance the design, construction, reconstruction, extension, acquisition, improvement, enlargement, alteration, renovation, relocation, rehabilitation, or repair of library facilities, including the acquisition and development of sites therefore, the architectural and engineering services incident thereto, and the acquisition and installment of necessary fixed permanent equipment therefore as defined therein. So in essence, can my county borrow $28 million to renovate local libraries? I think that that is a critical and very important project. So I'm going to say yes. I think that that's a perfectly good way, a perfectly important project if we're going to be borrowing some monies. All right. Next question. An act enabling the county to borrow money and issue bonds in an amount not exceeding $44,477,000 to finance the design, construction, reconstruction, extension, acquisition, improvement, enlargement, alteration, renovation, relocation, rehabilitation, or repair of public safety facilities, including fire department facilities, including the acquisition and development of sites therefore, the architectural and engineering services incident thereto, and the acquisition and installment of necessary fixed permanent equipment therefore, as defined therein. So in other words, they use about $44 million to improve public safety facilities, including fire department facilities. So I'm sure that more than likely includes police departments as well. All right. So you want to be thinking critically as you're reading these ballots, even though it might not be written on there. Police departments fall in line with public safety facilities. And if anything, the only question would be, which is why they only mention fire departments, is because people might not readily immediately think, oh yeah, this includes the fire departments too. All right. So there are a variety of things within our counties, within our communities that aid us in our public safety. So you're voting not just for police departments when you're voting on this question. You are also voting for or against fire departments. So you want to keep that in mind when you're making your decision. All right, we've got a couple more questions, just two more. An act enabling the county to borrow money and issue bonds in an amount not exceeding $133 million to finance the design, construction, reconstruction, extension, acquisition, improvement, enlargement, alteration, renovation, relocation, rehabilitation, or repair of county buildings, including the acquisition and development of sites therefore, the architectural and engineering services incident thereto, and the acquisition and installment of necessary fixed permanent equipment therefore, as defined therein. So am I down for them fixing up the county buildings or nah? And the final question, an act enabling the county to borrow money and issue bonds in an amount not exceeding $121,714,000 to finance the design, acquisition, improvement, enlargement, alteration, renovation, relocation, rehabilitation, or repair of community college facilities. So am I down for them to begin doing some architectural, some structural, some resource, some real good work on our community college facilities as well? Let's vote for or against that. All right. So I have completed my ballot. And so now what I need to do is I need to make sure everything is filled out. Always give it a second look over. You want to make sure that you filled out every question correctly and that you filled out all the boxes and bullets that needed to be filled out. All right. So I'm just going to give that a look over real quick. Want to make sure that's good. Always double check, my friends. Always double check. You know, these things are very, very important. And so you want to make sure that you've got that. So then I want to take my reply envelope and I want to put my ballot inside. Okay? And when I look at my reply envelope, I see here that after signing, fold this flap over, seal it at the bottom. This will cover your signature before you mail your ballot. How to return your ballot. So I can mail this ballot in. Quite frankly, I know for a fact the mail-in date in the state of Maryland has passed. And I personally would not recommend you mailing this ballot in. Literally, the stand-in election is next week, Tuesday. So just to be on the safe side, you don't want to put something in the mail and you're not guaranteed that it's going to get there. So it says you got 3 options, but if you're looking at this ballot right now, you don't have 3 options. You have 2. Okay, so you can take your ballot to the election office by 8 p.m. on election day, or you can drop your ballot off at a secure location by 8 p.m. on election day. All right. So that means we have drop boxes here. And remember, they gave us a paper identifying all the locations of the drop box locations, or you can go to your polling location or your official polling station and drop it off there early. All right. Now, one thing that you've definitely got to do right here at the bottom, there is a voter oath right here, right? Can y'all see that? Right here, we have a voter's oath. All right. So under penalty of perjury, I hereby swear or affirm that I am qualified to vote in the election and that I have not voted and do not intend to vote elsewhere in this election. I voted the enclosed ballot and mailed or delivered it on or before election day. Warning, any person who is convicted of violating the voting laws is subject to a fine of up to $1,000, to imprisonment of up to 2 years, or both. Voter sign here in ink. All right, so I come down here, give it my good signature. Y'all know, got that good handwriting. Got that good handwriting, get him my good signature. Put the date. Today's date is 10/26/2020. And then now I need to print my name. All right. Claudia M. Allen. All right. So, pull these puppies off. All right. And I'm going to cover this. And then I'm going to seal this. Okay. So we are good. All right. We are sealed. That is another thing that you really want to make sure. Hold on. I'm just reading. So the back, vlog. So the back of the envelope says your signature will be separated from your ballot before your ballot is counted. This makes sure no one can connect your name to how you voted. Put your ballot in the envelope that was addressed to you. If more than one voter in your household received a ballot, make sure every voter signs the correct envelope. All right, so I don't have to worry about that. I've got mine. It is sealed and done. That's also a critical element. You really do not want, there are times where ballots have been rejected or not counted because the envelopes were not sealed. Okay, so I'm super excited. Okay, today's the first day of early voting right here in my state, in my county, Prince George's County, Maryland. And so I hope that this really helped you, give you some information, and encouraged you. This is not an election to sit out, guys. Just like I showed, we are not voting exclusively for president or vice president. We are voting for circuit court judges. We are voting on state budgets. We are voting on questions about whether or not our local libraries get the funding that they need, whether or not our community colleges get the budgets that they need so that they can actually renovate and improve their facilities and public schools as well. So guys, please, please, please do not sit out in this election. Make sure that you have not just filled out your ballot, but that you've filled it out correctly, that you have signed it, and that you are going to submit it. Whether you put it in a drop box or whether you show up to submit it day of, make sure that you do that. All right. This has been another episode of Radically Reading, where we radically read the ballot. So make sure that you vote, make sure that you are informed, make sure that you are engaged in your local community. See you next time.